Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be viewing us from. This is Mapanza Nkwilimba of TV Bakwetu. We are back with our Saturday program, which is dubbed Hearing from Constituencies. I'm sorry today the program has come more than 2 hours late, but nevertheless, we have the honor of hosting Honorable Saka Chonde, who is the Member of Parliament for Milenge. Is that the correct pronunciation? Is it Milenge or Milenge?
No, it's Milenge. Probably
Milenge.
most of the members, you know, in the same province, there's Chiyengi. So maybe it influences.
Okay. So Milenge. So Honorable, welcome to the program, and can you just greet our viewers?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good evening and good morning, and depending on where you're watching us from, I greet all the viewers, and I thought I could welcome everybody on the platform, but instead I'm the one who's being welcomed.
You are a guest, so you wait for your host to welcome you, but you also have to greet our viewers. You know, if you are watching us from wherever you are, please do share this broadcast with others. We want as many people as possible to participate. You can ask questions after I have chatted with the MP for 30 minutes. If you are available, if you want to make any comments or you want to ask questions, please do feel free to do so. Meanwhile, do share the link with your friends and to other groups that you have. Now, Honorable Saka Chonde, you know, this is a program where we talk to different people from constituencies. It's about the CDF. We want to learn what is happening throughout the country. So we have talked to a number of members of parliament before, and we have even talked to some ward development chairpersons in some of the wards. So we are honored to have you tonight. But before we get to the business of discussing the Constituency Development Fund, we just want to know who is Honorable Saka Chonde.
Okay, actually, I have as a typical Bemba situation, I have 4 names. My names are, most of those that have grown up with Barak Chonde, Gustav Saka. I hail from Milenge. Actually, my village lately now carries my name, and I'm the substantive village headman. I'm a married person. I have 5 children, a wife, and I live in Lusaka at the same time. So I'm a member of parliament for Milenge. I may have left a few things that would really suit the viewers more about me, and probably I could be reminded and what they would feel I must comment on.
Yeah, sure. I think tell us a bit more about your growing up. Where did you grow up, and where did you go for your education?
I have grown up in Milenge. I went to Butimbe Primary School. There's lower there. At that time, there was no high school at Butimbe, which is my village. Next to, basically, we host that village. And then Sokontwe, which was the upper primary, and then secondary school in Mansa Secondary School. For all my 5 years, I finished there. I applied for my first qualification, tertiary at Zamimi, then in Lusaka. I just applied and got accepted, and I dropped it because I come from a family of business background. So I stopped it. I opted for business. At that time, I was given 2 buses to run. So I think I overstayed there. Then I went to South Africa from about 1994 to about 1996. Then I came back to Zambia, and most of my life I've been doing business. I worked partially with United Milling and Colwyn Group in Ndola, not in the sequence I'm mentioning it, but 98, 2000. And then I concentrated more on business. So I've been a businessman from that time to about now, when I joined politics about a year or 2 years ago.
Okay. So what were you doing in South Africa?
Well, I was the opportunities opened up in South Africa, so we were doing business, cross-border business. Like, a school leaver, I didn't have qualifications to say I went for school or something like that. I was doing cross-border trading because, remember, I come from the Copper Belt mainly, where I grew up after high school, and most of my primary schools, because my firstborn brother then, when we were being brought up, we were living in Ndola at the same time. Just after high school, I was living in Ndola, and even during the high school, I was still living in Ndola from Milenge, and then partially from coming from Ndola. So I was exposed to a lot of business trading with the mines. I did a lot of informal sector in my life, and then I traded mainly with the mines, KCM, Mopani, and then when the opportunity opened up itself in South Africa, because that's where we used to source our merchandise. So I migrated to South Africa, and I lived there for close to 2 years. I think it was 2 years, yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Now, I'm still interested. Having grown up in a typical rural area, I'm still interested to know a bit more about your early days. Going to school for grade 1, up to grade 7. What was it like? What was life like for you? Every day. Yeah.
It was very, very hard. But you see, even in that village setup, I was one of a few privileged, because I am the 7th born out of 8 members of the family, and my father was a businessman, initially a teacher at that level in their times. So at the time I was being born, my father had already started business. So he was a businessman of the area. They actually propped up the area. There's an area called Kapalala, which is a hub, which is those that know the Copper Belt more. There's a part that is called, from Main Masala there, part of that market is called Kapalala. It's named after our hub, because all those people that were trading. Now, my father, why I've referred to that one, is my father were prominently present among the 4 or 5 businessmen that made Kapalala being pronounced. So yes, it was very hard for the rest of the members of the community, but I was a little bit above the privileged one, because at the time I was being born, my father was already established, and I did grade 1 to grade 4 to grade 5 at Kutimbwe, and I used to be taken to Sokontwe. Now at that time, my brother was I think he was 2nd or 3rd to the governor at Dunlop, Zambia Limited. So I was moved into Ndola quite early, but I didn't do much there because I missed a lot of, in our times. I don't know whether that is the time that you grow up. So at the time I was trying to be being enrolled at Northrise Primary. I missed a few things in terms of my primary school education, but I wasn't really underprivileged. But I think, slightly above the underprivileged one, even though it was a village setup.
Yeah, definitely. A son of a teacher, that was, you are considered to be the high profile. Everybody was envying you. One hour teacher.
Yes, 1 hour teacher. But I had already retired. He was already an old man. He had me when he was already 50.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, how did you become interested in politics?
Look, my firstborn brother was born in 1950, and he went to Luela School, if I remember, and then Mwense. He was a classmate to the current Dr. Katele Kalumba now at Mwense Secondary School, and among the few that I can still meet, Mr. Chiwe, because I was being introduced. I grew up in his house. I started staying with him when I was about 9. So when I was about 10. So to come back to your question, I've got so many things to talk about my area. So I just refresh your question again.
Yeah, I'm just saying, how did you become interested in politics?
Oh yeah. So that brother of mine, just at the introduction of multipartyism, I remember very well in 1990, because I was a member of the UNIP committee at Master Secondary School, at the school, because remember I used to have those committees in secondary schools. So at that time, when the introduction of multipartyism to Zambia, when we had Finance Blawayo as our provincial minister then, my brother was interested in contesting Chembe. Then it was called Chembe. So it was heavily contested because my brother, who was the firstborn brother, Chirufia, and then Dalton Sokontwe, and a few others tried to contest. So I started developing a little bit of interest in the area. But my brother was not picked under difficult circumstances. We followed it keenly, but then we did not develop further as a family in terms of interest in politics. So at that time, I think that is the beginning. That's the genesis of my interest in politics.
Oh, great. So, want go fast forward, 2021. What was it like what was it like, first of all, competing amongst the other candidates from, are you from a party or you are an independent?
No, I'm independent, but then I applied under the PF. So
okay,
I'll give you a slight background because I went a little bit further because you tried to find out the genesis of my interest in politics. So I had another brother of mine, Harlan Gistav Saka. I think he was a PF candidate in 2006. So unfortunately for him, he was the only one that lost in Luapula. Everybody else was PF, but he lost to Mr. Nkwilimba 15 years ago or 16 years ago now. So he's the one who introduced PF in Milenge, and then it was still called Chembe. So he's the one who established PF structures in Chembe, whatever we were talking about in Chembe in terms of politics as a family. So he's the one who introduced it, and then he lost the election, unfortunately. And he was asked to, Mr. Sata then had asked him to, to take the party to appeal to the, to sue, so that he could then be heard, because according to Mr. Sata, he did not lose. But knowing Milenge the way it is and its challenges, I think at the time, Mr. Sata accused the MMD then that no, they had rigged the Chembe elections. But remember, there was a coincidence. That is the time they were opening, at that time with, may his soul rest in peace, that's when they opened Chembe bridge under the levy Mawasa-led MMD. So I think we thought as a family that part of that influence, part of that development influenced the people's decision in terms of trying to maintain the MMD into power, and the rest is history. So that is where I probably developed my interest in politics started developing even further.
So great. So what was it like campaigning in 2021?
It was very, very challenging. Remember, I applied under the PF, because obviously throughout my life, in terms of political affiliation, I had been PF. In fact, I've been PF until I was left out. Then provisionally we were required to resign. So that's how I resigned from the PF. And I had, it was so amazing. The people appealed to me to stand, they sympathized with me. Some of them out of sympathy, some of them out of desire to say they needed to have a voice, because they felt like my predecessor came from MMD, and therefore the structures for PF and MMD were really not, they did not gel. So upon my application as them receiving my application as a member of parliament under the PF, then the relation, because by the way, my brother is late, so I revived the memories of my brother, and my soul rest in peace. And then it was all these factors coming together, and then the people appealed to me to say, please come on your own the way you came as independent, and we'll give you support and we'll vote for you. And then I listened to them and I responded positively, and the rest is history. They responded the way they promised me to.
Exactly. Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So this is your first time in Parliament, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a first timer. Yeah.
Yeah. So you used to hear about constituent development fund before, I guess. How do you look at the difference from where we have come from to where we are now in terms of the amount of money that was being given to constituencies?
To me, the focus is not really on the money. First of all, I want to congratulate the government for shifting the responsibility to ourselves. To me, the focus is on the ourselves to decide our own fate. They've given us money, the increment. I don't even want to compare about it. And even though they were given, like for example, like my focus, like I've mentioned, my focus is on the authority to give us liberty to decide our own fate, because the centralized system over the years has not proved it has failed us in a way. We failed us. They may have tried their own base, their own the policies towards from centralized system has not served us adequately. But we feel this new thing of decentralization, which obviously gives us autonomy to decide our own fate, and then I want to encourage government for that, and I appreciate that. In terms of the funds allocation, I even need more. I even need more, given the new program. I even need more because the challenges that the countryside has, and to those that have been in the countryside, the challenges are huge. It's incomparable. There's no amount of money that would feel satisfied in terms of suiting our people. But the desire by the current regime, to me, hands up. That's what I appreciate more than the actual amount allocated to us. But the
Yes.
desire to give us to decide our fate, it underlines it's a killer. It's the most, not a killer per se. I don't know how I've used it, but I think it's the excitement cannot be underestimated. I'm excited to
Exactly.
decide our own fate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, taking the power to the people to decide what they want to do. Now, talk a bit more about that. What has it been? What has it been like preparing the community, to take that responsibility of deciding their future?
Well, they the community has received it with both hands. We have welcomed it 100%. But the only thing is, our literacy levels in our communities is something that you and me cannot escape as a Zambian. So we have a bit of teething challenges, and also the harmonization between the implementing agencies, the council, who feels we've got members of the council, for example, who are still coming with an attitude of supremacy in terms of the levels of interaction. Remember, an MP is only left with oversight responsibilities. So I have no control in terms of the levels of interaction between the implementing agencies, who are the council, and the community. And I'm still, facts are still unfolding to see how, for example, the councils, the council officials, for example, how they are relating, these professionals, the technocrats, how they are relating with the communities who feel they need more time, they need to be heard. But the approach is, for example, there are quite a lot of bottlenecks in there in terms of the implementation stage. So we may not have it as smooth as we feel, you and me feel, but it will take a little bit of time. That is why my area of emphasis is an appreciation is on the desire and the program by government to give us to decide our own fate. We still have a lot of bottlenecks in terms of how our technocrats conduct towards communities. Some of them are good. Some of them have got individual challenges in terms of communication. So, we are now in the decentralization program. We are now, it's a situation where the Ward Development Committee, who represents the community, have got a bigger say to decide. But how are these colleagues that are taking government programs on a technical platform receiving it? How are they understanding that they are of equal status? This villager comes to say we need a toilet, and it must be taken as such. But so we have those challenges because remember, also the age of our officials. Some of them are still youthful. They may not have time to engage the people. So the fact that an MP is being given an oversight role, which I don't condemn. I feel he must be empowered more because it's the beginning, the genesis of the contact between the community, real community, and the technocrats. So the challenges that we have among them is how the technical, what do you call the officials? Yeah, the officials, the technocrats approach it. Yes. So how they are implementing with it. For example, I personally encountered a situation where the World Development Committee proposes that we need electricity here, and the technocrats are saying no, because they are now responding in terms of tradition. This is a program of the central government. Now, if you go back to the guidelines, there's no conflict in terms of proposals. It can either be implemented by the local government through CDF, the decentralization program, or by the central government, because there's a meeting point where we have the district development committees where they meet. If a project is appearing on both, automatically on the other side it falls off, but does not restrict the identifiers who are the ward development committees to bring forward what they feel must be taken into their communities. So we have all these kind of challenges in the implementation stage, in the beginning stage. I still want to give it a little bit of more room in terms of how we are coming back to the ministry in an effort to refine the guidelines that then need to sit well. It may not be seen in terms of the impact, may not be seen this year or next year, but certainly in the next 3 years, the impact to be felt more than now.
Yes. Now, how many wards do you have in your constituency?
I have 15.
15. Well, that's
Yes.
a lot. So,
Yes.
what is your feeling about the ward development committees that have been formed in these 15 wards? Are you happy that they are up to the game, or they need their capacity to be built?
No, capacity has to be built. It can't be substituted. There are capacity issues. But remember, our people are quite knowledgeable. You understand? It's just these are some of the most confident communities that we've had in the country, like where I come from, for example. But we have challenges, for example, in 2 or 3 wards in my constituency. There's in Saka ward and in Saka ward and in Sunga ward. These are heavily disadvantaged. If you look at the deprivation value there, it's hovering around above 90%. And one of the things, if you follow my debates as an interested party, because I know Doc is from there, I'm not able to access these areas until about June or July because of the facilities. Even as I promote CDF, these people in these 2 wards do not see the benefits. They don't even know much about the programs. These are areas that can only be promoted by government. Why do I say so? Because you have to fly, for example, between December or January and March. If you have to take any program there adequately, you have to fly to Lungomukuta, or you have to fly to Nsakawat. So we have these challenges, and I'm sure Milenge is not an isolated case. I know some areas in Western Province could be very similar. Could be in a very similar situation.
Yeah. So far, I mean, in terms of the programs that have been announced, I think all the 3 areas, for example, the secondary school boarding bursaries, and then skills development bursaries and projects. Let's talk about, first of all, the bursary schemes for the secondary school boarding and for skills development. What has been the response of the young people towards these programs?
Well, the response is fantastic. For example, I'll take a very controversial stance. If I was consulted to say, what do you need in Milenge? If CDF, for example, has to address specific needs of the area, because remember, these are diverse societies, and needs may not be standard, but we have standardized the needs. If I was, for example, given a choice, I would opt for tertiary, anything after grade 12, because this is where we have a lot of challenges. For example, if a child gets to grade 12, no matter what you need, he needs to get out of Milenge in order for them to progress. So how do then poor people get the sponsorship up to grade 12 and then they don't get it after grade 12 in a competitive world? So if I was given a choice, I would have opted for that one first and then come down, and unlike the way it is now. So to a certain extent, there was not too much consultation in terms of it. Like I said, it's teething challenges, the genesis of this decentralization program, but mustn't be standardized, because our challenges are different from Kawata. Our challenges are different from Nkana. So these are the issues that we need to sit down and refine the programs.
Yeah, I mean, you have said it right. I mean, needs are different in different places. And as you said earlier, I mean, the beauty of this process is that authority has been given to the community community themselves to decide what they want to do. So is there a challenge in terms of the process of engaging the community so that what they see as a priority is what is put for funding?
There's a challenge. I think the way government operates is standard. You do not. I'll give you an example. For example, I'll give you an example. We come to parliament, budget come to parliament to be debated, but we do not have. We can touch anywhere, but we don't vary. We cannot vary numbers. We can't touch it. So equally in terms of CDF, we are not allowed to go outside the guidelines. So the guidelines have been set. I was part of the guidelines, but probably I didn't understand it more. I'm not throwing it back to government. I'm throwing it back to myself as well. That's why I'm trying to put the emphasis on refining the guidelines, because then we will stay on course. Because I know that my challenges today in Milenge are the same in Kalabo, are the same in Shwangandu. So these are the things that we need to refine as a people in order for them. Probably we need a little bit of flexibility, in as much as the pronouncement indicates that we need to decide our own fate. Yes, but it's a beginning. I don't want to throw a blame on anything. What is paramount is that we have started the decentralization program to decide our own fate. So now, since this is the beginning of the program, we will have to refine it. We'll have to have some kind of input into further discussion and how the programs are implemented to suit the environment, specific areas of our country, and areas of our need. I mean, in need areas. So this is a stage where we are. It's still an infant process, and I don't want to run away that I'm not part of it. We were given an opportunity to have an input on it, but we didn't have the practical experience in terms of what challenges were we going to face them.
Honorable, help me to understand this a bit more. What do you think could be improved in as far as the guidelines are concerned?
In what area? CDF is wide now.
Yeah, anyway, because what you are saying is that you seem to have a problem with the guidelines. So I just wanted you to amplify a bit, what you see as something that needs to be improved as far as the guidelines are concerned. Because, from where I stand, although the guidelines are not perfect, I know that the guidelines are quite clear on the areas of intervention. It's very clear in terms of, the process of identifying those needs. Okay, there are these that are like bursaries for secondary school boarding, skills development, but and also when you come to projects, in terms of the process of identifying the projects, that responsibility has been given to the community, because the community are the ones who feel those needs. So they're the ones who decide, no, in this community, what we want is this and this. They might have a list of 5 or so things, and then they can prioritize to say, out of these 5, number 1, if we had resources, number 1 will be this one, number 2 will be this one. So in terms of really giving the authority to the communities to decide, the guidelines are clear. And do you see any challenges with that?
Okay, if you narrow it down to project identification, I don't think so there's any challenge at all. If you I personally feel, because I'm in a hurry to deliver and to translate the government policy so that the communities then they can appreciate it. In terms of procedural, it's too long. I don't know what could be done to hasten the process of procurement of these projects. In terms of identification, not worries about it. The overall picture of decentralization is perfect. I am talking nitty-gritties challenge, the bottlenecks that that we are expecting. That is the ones I'm trying to highlight. It's in no way is it in conflict. Is it in conflict with project identification, project implementation? I have a query there. I would want it done like yesterday, but the procedure is, remember, we are following the standard procurement of ZPPA in order for us to get this. Now, I'm coming from a rural constituency that only gives me liberty of trading out of the 12 months. Out of the 12 months, from December to March, all my activities are suspended, regardless of my desire to do that. So we are trying to say, can we factor these issues in terms of, for the people, in order for the people to appreciate what government is trying to do? Otherwise, it's going to end up like a thankless job. The government is doing so much, but it's not implemented. Remember, we have a history where we are coming from, that these things were, in the previous regimes, it was centralized. Now they are giving it to us. So in terms of deliverables, if there are no differences in timelines, it may be called the same thing over and over again. And we are a community that is not really appreciated. As a politician, you are not really appreciated. Most of society focus is on what has he done, what has he given us. So issues like this. So as a politician, and I feel everybody else feels the same, we are in a hurry to deliver now that we have been given a chance to decide our own fate. So this is only where I have a few sticking points. There could be few, there could be many, depending on how you look at it from where you stand. My challenges in Milenge are not the same in Nkana. And they are not the same in Kawata. So these are the challenges. But coming to your question, when you say, where do you have challenges? I have in a number of issues. For example, the process procurement, the process in terms of procuring of these projects. Remember, community has received it. Actually, we are in the firing range as members of parliament. The communities have received it at the CDF. There has not been a lot of education around it. Everything has been left to an MP. Anyone who doesn't understand anything, they'll say the MP hasn't been here. So how long will you stay in the constituency to educate the people? How much has the process accommodated the people that are supposed to educate communities? Because remember, this is not only an MP's role. You understand? We are paying a fee to the implementing agencies who should possess enough knowledge, because they are vested with, they've been given trust to do authentication of the project, to validate the projects, to do the pricing, the costing around the projects. They must do it. And then they must come and implement what the CDF approves. So they have a bigger role. But how much time has been placed on them to educate communities in terms of what they're going to do? Remember, our literacy levels are very bad. So this does not spare the World Development Committees. This does not spare the participating communities at various levels. So these are some of the challenges. It's a very wide subject when we talk about CDF.
You are right. I think that there should have been more emphasis put on really educating the communities on the CDF. But I guess, as you are saying, I mean, these are teething problems.
Yes.
Ideally, this year precedes an election, which makes it more challenging to actually design and implement projects. Because ideally, by February this year, communities should have planned for next year's funding.
Exactly.
That's how the guidelines are. By February this year, they should have had already planned for projects that are going to be implemented next year. But now, here we are in the first year of implementing this program. the same year. That's why there are so many challenges with the first year. First of all, the guidelines came, it had to take some time to produce the guidelines, and that's time gone. And then now we have to plan for this year and also for next year. So I can see the challenges that communities face, but I hope, as you are saying, I hope these will be teething problems, and then I hope that there will be ways of perhaps refining the guidelines, as you have said. What are your thoughts? Okay, I hope you'll be able to come back. We have lost our guest there. I hope that you'll be able to join us. And you have heard what he has said. Those challenges that which I think are really part of the teething problems. People are in a hurry to develop. They are in a hurry to use the resources that have come into their possession. But then we have these, bottlenecks in as far as the procurement processes are concerned. Anyway, while we are waiting for the MP to see if he will come back, let me take this opportunity to do a bit of marketing. If you can, please do give us stars. If you look at the bottom, if you somewhere at the bottom of the screen, you will see a yellow stars there. If you click on those stars, you'll be guided on how to give us some stars. That's how these programs are run, by giving us those stars. So the MP is back. Did you hear what I was saying? And then I was asking if you would want to make a comment.
No, no, I didn't get you. I lost you for a moment. I lost you momentarily. Okay. So I could probably, if you could probably maybe, if in the interest of participation, maybe if that is the subject of discussion, I would really would rather, really, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I lost you, but I was saying, when you talked about teething problems, one of the challenges, actually, I think, which is the biggest challenge, is that in the first year, we have to deal with the planning and implementing projects in the same year, when the guidelines really, it's supposed to be like, by February this year, communities should have planned already for activities that are going to be funded in 2023. So that's the challenge we have now. We have to prepare proposals for 2022 funding. And at the same time, we have to look at what will be funded in 2023. And I guess one way of doing this is where, if communities have identified their needs and they have prioritized them, you can already plan for the future years, because you may not be able to implement everything that the community wants in 1 year. So the community could identify what could be funded now, but already plan for those programs that will be funded in future years.
Yeah. That should have been the scenario. I'll give you what we went through this year, for example. Yeah. Even at the position of MPs, we still had to suspend the initial implementation, even after the government had announced, in order for us to refine these guidelines. One of the biggest challenges that we had is, an MP. This is the only platform, CDF is the only platform where an MP feels he would have control in terms of project implementation. But now we are driving a decentralized system, which is quite inclusive. And we are coming from a tradition. Why was the CDF, for example, pronounced? So we had all these challenges. I can tell you, it's one of the few, in as divisive as we are, divided as we are in that house, is one of the few that we get a bipartisan stance, the CDF. So we had a lot of challenges ourselves in terms of coming up, refining the CDF guidelines. Even after doing that, and no MP can be spared because we were quite represented in terms of
Yeah.
the guidelines. And then
Yeah.
we still have to go back with what I'm sharing with you as challenges. I know that every other MP is facing it, but having said that, this is the beginning of the journey, of the long journey. But so far, it looks quite positive in terms of the impact on our communities.
Great. So in terms of the process of planning the projects in all the wards in your constituencies, how is the process going so far? We talked briefly about the secondary school boarding bursaries and the skills development. Maybe let's go back to that. How many children, for example, uh, are lined up to be sponsored for secondary school boarding, and how many youths have applied for skills development bursaries?
I don't have the specific numbers, but it's quite overwhelming. I'll tell you, for example, I
Go
are you
ahead.
there?
I'm listening. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm here. Go ahead. I'm
yeah,
here.
yeah. I can't put a finger to the number, but the response
Okay.
has been very good. Remember, this is the only moment that we have. We are still disseminating information in terms of response, in terms of participation, but the response so far is. I actually didn't expect that. They are in hundreds.
Okay. That's good. It's encouraging to know that at least the response has been good. So now, in terms of for example, if you need to do, I don't know what the needs are really in schools or even generally in infrastructure. Do you think that you have sufficient skills within the constituency to begin with, within the wards, to be able to utilize the resources within the constituency instead of looking for contractors from outside the constituency?
No, we have no capacity in the constituencies. Definitely in Milenge, we don't have it. I know that Milenge, Chembe, or the neighboring Chifunabuli, whichever way you want to do it. No, we don't have. Because you see, and I don't want to blame it on. It will take a bit of time in terms of capacity building. For example, for a company to qualify to take part into construction, you need to have PACRA, you need to have ZRA tax clearance, you need to have engineers attached to your company. Now, these are very small companies that a credible engineer would not want to associate himself with, unless it's his company. To say, no, I'm working for a company in Milenge, which is just being registered today. So these are some of the challenges. So in a bid to identify contractors, they need to have engineers. There's something to do with the Engineering Association of Zambia. There's something to do with the NCC, National Council for Construction, which obviously looks for they've got a system in which they grade the contractors, and they have to meet some financial requirements like audited books of accounts for 2 years. So we don't have capacity in the rural areas. We'll still go back to the people on the Copper Belt and mostly from Lusaka.
Yeah, but I think I think the guidelines there are flexible, Andre, because the idea is that the resources remain in the constituencies instead of returning the Copper Belt or Lusaka. So what is it that you are doing to build the capacity within the constituency, so that if it's building a school, you have people who have the skills to actually build a school within it? It could be a cooperative, but there could be people that are qualified to do bricklaying and carpentry.
Uh, uh, Look, what I love by this whole program, I love the desire by government to empower us. So come back to me and say, what challenges are you facing? Is the capacity. What do I mean? If you want to say you want bricklayers, we'll be looking at, we are now relying on the informal. The identification is not what you and me are debating. We'll look at who knows how to do bricklaying. So we still have to outsource manpower. But that's why we are saying it's in the infancy. The program is in the infancy. So the impact may not be felt this year or next year, because we still have to do skills transfer by allowing these members to become, when you are building where I come from, you allow them to be in Dhaka Boy, the bricklayer comes from Mansa, and then eventually they'll be able to know how to do the building and undertake all this responsibility when we give it to them. So the program is 100%. There's no conflict. But what we have to be real here, that we don't have, in all sectors, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the manpower to undertake such until maybe after a year or 2 or 3. So the impact of this program may delay as much as up to 3 years in order for us to start seeing what this program was meant, in order for the community to start fully appreciating the CDF programs now. For now, let's not be in a hurry to look for its impact on society, because society trades on practicabilities. It has to be practical for them to see that out of this I did ABCD, and I learned how to bricklay. I learned how to do this. So these are the challenges that we have. They are not really challenges, but they're the beginning of freedom. That's the beginning, the long walk to freedom. It's a first step.
Exactly. Now, Honorable, I mean, how do you strike a balance? It's true that you want things to be done like yesterday, and you wouldn't have qualified manpower to do most of the things that you want to do when it comes to infrastructure. But in terms of laying down the foundation so that come next year, you will have the skills that you require in the community. What are your plans to ensure that come next year you have the skills that can do most of the things that you want to do in your constituents?
I'm trying to consult the technical team how we would have, for example, workshops being done. I will tell you some things that the trade school and the vocation college in Mansa, they are doing. For example, they are sending their personnel because now they are overwhelmed. Remember, in Milenge, we would have a trade school there, but it was abandoned, and the rest is history. So Mansa Trade School is sending people, lecturers, to go and conduct workshops, and it's an extension program which they are doing in Milenge. So programs that must continue and must be improved. And then we are looking at, we are telling our colleagues, the technocrats, to see to it that, for example, this year, it's a very contentious issue. We may give them a go-ahead to bring people into contractors from Mansa. First of all, if we don't have it in Milenge, we might as well source it within the province so that it doesn't go to the copper belt, so that the benefits could be felt. So we are trying to see how deliberate policies could allow that traders within the province be given priorities, unlike those ones from outside the province. Because the close contact and liaison and communication, it will then give us, we feel that it would be more advantageous to use those ones from the province, unlike outsourcing them from outside the province. But I don't know. We are still proposing that this is the way to go. How good that or the impact will be, it's a beginning of the whole program. So we hope it will impact our communities positively.
So when you look at the youth that are applied for skills development, what areas are they interested in? In which areas are they going to be trained?
There are quite a lot. Huh? There's carpentry. There's also bricklaying. Sometimes you force them because you now say there'll be a lot of infrastructure development in the constituency. So encouraging to them. There are not a lot of them that wants bricklaying. There's also agriculture. There are a lot of, anyway, they're quite isolated, but we have got areas that we're trying to ask them to say, if you focus on this, our areas are lagging behind in these areas. But it's a preconceived program that they feel certain sections like bricklaying or tailoring will enable them to go to urban areas. They still have got a mindset of moving from Milenge to urban areas, and they would be able to trade in urban areas. So we are trying to lower down, to try and encourage them to say, stay here and be able to make more money here. So it's a very big program to impact what to change the line of thinking.
Exactly. I mean, they can't look at the fact that, with these resources coming into their constituency every year, you have 25.7 million. Don't you think that, I mean, that's going to improve Milenge, and Milenge is going to be an attraction, for people to stay where they are instead of think of going to Mansa or somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, society now slowly is migrating to that reality, but it still remains in people's minds that they'll be perceived to be more achievers when they move out of Milenge and say, no, I have got a shop in Sanfia, I've got a stand in Mansa. So we're still migrating back to this is a tradition that we have grown up with. That once, if you want to be called, you have achieved something, you need to find your position in one of these developed provincial centers, or even in the Copper Belt. Mind you, Copper Belt is very popular in Luapula because every person that feels has to achieve something has to be present on the Copper Belt. So we are trying to to change the line of thinking that the real place is Milenge.
That's the challenge that you have as leaders there in like every other rural constituency. That's the challenge that you have, to change the mindset, to help people to begin to envision their own environment as the one that is going to attract more resources, and they can make it even if they remained in Milenge.
Oh yeah. There's huge. I'll tell you why. Milenge is 115 kilometers from Undola. The only thing that stands between Milenge and the Copper Belt is the Congolese strip, that small strip there, where the Congo comes into Zambia. It's 284 kilometers from Milenge to Mansa. So you'll find that most of our families are more familiar with the Copper Belt. Now, the Copper Belt has saved, in terms of urbanization, the entire northern circuit, the towns is the Copper Belt, be it in Ndola, Kitwe, whichever. So Milenge has not been spared in that case. It's 150 kwacha on a motorbike from Milenge into Ndola. It's 250 from Milenge to Mansa, and 200 from Milenge to Samfia. So to stop them not to go to Ndola because Milenge now is attractive, we have a huge task in order for us to overcome. The only way is that we are trying to show them that whatever you grow, you can then take it to the Copper Belt and then come back with the money. Yes, and the Copper Belt is serving as a market. So these are some of the things that stands in our line of progress.
Exactly. Honorable MP, I really appreciate your appearance on this program. We are remaining with 30 seconds. Maybe you can just say something that you'd want to encourage your people in the next 30 seconds. And when when we are through, just hang around, don't go immediately.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I would encourage our people to, we are. It sounded like we have been slow, but because we have had a rain season in Milenge. When we have a rain season, all the activities come to a halt, and we want them to because Milenge is in Two Horizon, so we are establishing another constituency office in terms of contact with their area MP, who is me, in the east and in the central, in order for them to have access to the area MP, in order for them to communicate adequately with my office. At the moment, doesn't seem adequate because the office of an area MP is situated on the western side, which is an area almost equivalent to the eastern side, and there's no direct linkage. So we have these challenges, and I would call on my people. My number is quite a busy one, but it's open 24/7. But because I have one number and the traffic is so huge that those that get frustrated in terms of getting me, I think my Facebook page now is free to those that can use these facilities. But I'll still come back to you and tell you that as a medium of communication, Bakwetu, I thought this program was going to be a phone-in program because I feel I want to accommodate as much views as possible in terms of people, areas of concern, and how I look forward for you to give me more space that I can adequately market myself. It's quite encouraging, and I'm very happy with yourselves that you have given me platform. I've been looking forward for this, and I hope I can take advantage of this and use this platform to adequately market Milenge, not necessarily myself, but Milenge, and to those that have not known me. And I welcome all the views, positive, negative. I have an open door policy in terms of communication, and I welcome everybody that feels like they can communicate with me.
You are most welcome. Any time that you want to to appear, you can just let me know, and then we can create a spot for you one of the weekends. This program is every Saturday, so feel free whenever you want to come and give an update. Just let me know. There is somebody, Emmanuel Mulondani. He says, please give me your telephone number. He's asking you to give him your telephone number. Maybe you can say your telephone number, so for those that want to get in.
Okay, 0977 42 41 41.
So 0977 42 41 41.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Emmanuel, I hope you have gotten that one. The number is 0977 42 41 41. Well, viewers, we'll come to an end of this program. We thank the Honorable Saka Chonde, member for Milenge, who has been with us this evening. And we really appreciate your appearing on this program. And as I said, please, you are welcome anytime. This is your forum. We can always create space for you to update your people or to update us on what is happening in Milenge. So for tonight, we'll say goodbye, and we look forward to having another program next week on Saturday, beginning from 20 hours. Please do let others know. And if you are a ward development committee chairperson or a member of parliament and would want to make an appearance on this program, just let us know. For now, we say good night, wherever you may be, and may God bless.
Thank you so much.